but Representative Jeff Duncan did. Come on up here, sir. Where are you? There he is. Show me that spry campaign run. Come on up here. Prior to being elected to service, Representative Duncan served as a branch manager at a community bank. So he knows how to deal with the community, and he knows how money looks like and what it looks like. Then went on to be the president of Duncan Associates, a South Carolina-based, family-owned real estate marketing firm. You know why I highlight those two things? Besides, it's always great to introduce a guy who is in office by giving his credentials, is because it's business, it's family, and it's dealing with the community. And we have too much of a disconnect in Washington with politicians who go there and forget where they came from. When you're elected to office, you're elected to serve your constituents, not just the people who voted for you. And that's my charge to all politicians. Do what's right, strong conservative values, strong Republican values, and strong American values. Representative Jeff Duncan.
Thank you. Joe, thanks for having me again 5 years in a row. And let's give the Admiral another round of applause for an awesome, well-articulated vision of the problems in this country. Admiral, thank you for your service, and I really enjoyed the speech. You know, the scheduled topic of my speech this morning is defending America. But keep in mind that we're defending America from a lot of different threats. You heard a lot of those articulated by the Admiral. Those threats are ISIS and Al-Qaeda for sure, but Russia and China, their aggression, cyber terrorism, a nuclear Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Shabaab, drug cartels. But defending America, it isn't just about defending the homeland, the soil, a place called America. It's about defending a form of government, an ideal. I think that's what the Tea Party originally developed to do, and that's defend America. We must also defend it from an unconstitutionally strong central government. Now, as Congressman Gary Palmer from Alabama once said, he said, "I don't blame liberals for the condition of our country, I blame us," speaking about Republicans. Now, there's no doubt there's a lot of animosity toward Washington today. You've heard a lot about that in the last 2 days, really, but most of that's directed toward Barack Obama and the administration, which continues to consolidate more power in the federal government, attempt to take power away from where our founding fathers and the Constitution left it. And that power is with the states and with us, the people. Instead of picking up on the voter angst that's out there, it seems the establishment in Washington, D.C. would rather conservatives just quiet down a little, sit in the corner, let the adults take care of things. They know how things work up in Washington. We don't understand as general public, and our ideas aren't even feasible when it comes to governing. Well, we're not going to quiet down, are we? This is our country, and we're going to take it back. The way of thinking that the establishment wants to govern, that way of thinking has got America into debt to the tune of $19 trillion. It's allowed the alphabet agencies of the federal government to make rules and regulations and law which further erodes our personal liberties, the liberties of the American people. It's no wonder that the candidates for president who are seemingly outside of the mainstream anti-establishment are leading in the polls. I think you've heard from a couple of them this weekend. In my humble opinion, the establishment Republicans in Washington and elsewhere would do well to stop telling guys like Ted Cruz and Donald Trump and Jeff Duncan and Mark Meadows and Louis Gohmert and a lot of others, they'd do well to stop telling us to quiet down and start opening their ears and listening to what's being said, because what's being said is resonating with the American people, hence these guys leading in the polls with double-digit leads. maybe listen to what's being said and incorporate some of those ideas on our own platforms and our own messaging as Republicans. It has not been easy to be a conservative congressman, a Tea Party congressman in Washington, let me tell you. I get down on myself some. But God has an amazing way to bring something into your life, a message, something somebody says, something you see, to kind of bring you back to reality and let you know that you're in the right place. In the words of actor Jim Caviezel, played the Passion of the Christ, played in the Count of Monte Cristo, you know who I'm talking about. He said, "Set yourself apart from our corrupt generation, my brothers and sisters. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to stand out." Those are awesome words. Those are words that were brought to me when I was having one of those down moments about whether we could actually move the ball forward, whether we could return our country to the constitutional form of government, whether we could pull power back from Washington and instill it back in the hands of the people and the states. I was beating myself up because, we had a leadership issue going on there. Mark Meadows helped, God bless him, help initiate this summer. They saw a change in Washington, a change I hope will be for the better. But I was beating myself up. And those words from Jim Caviezel came before me. And I was elected in the 2010 wave election, where Americans were taxed enough already. I think we're still taxed way too much. We saw exactly what the big progressive policies of Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid were doing to our personal liberties. I remember that campaign in 2010 because Republicans wanted to take back control of the House. The Senate was a foregone conclusion at that point in time, but we wanted to take the gavel out of the hands of Nancy Pelosi, and we did. But during that 2010 election, during that fall, Republicans in Washington came out with a pledge to America. Do you remember that? A pledge. A pledge, mind you, which stated that if you give us, Republicans, control of the House of Representatives, if we can take the gavel away from Nancy Pelosi, this is how we will govern. It wasn't sold as a hope or a dream or a maybe. It was a pledge. It was a pledge to you that these are the things that we would do. What did the pledge say? Well, the pledge said we would cut $100 billion from federal spending, and we would do it in such a way so to protect seniors and veterans and our nation's military. Now, we eventually did cut $100 billion out of spending, but we did it through the president's sequester, an across-the-board spending cut that hurt the nation's military that you heard the Admiral talk about earlier, a reduction in force, a reduction in equipment, a reduction in ships. The president's sequester, across-the-board spending cuts, and those cuts hurt seniors, they hurt veterans, and they hurt the military, all while seeing the nation dive deeper and deeper into the abyss of debt that now stands at $19 trillion plus. Republicans pledged to you that after Obamacare was passed, so that we could read it, by the way. I think we read it after it was passed, right, Nancy? It was crafted by special interests and a handful of progressives in secrecy, passed in the middle of the night. We said to you that we'd be more transparent than that we would actually put bills online for 3 days to allow members of Congress a chance to read the bill, but also allow the American people to read the bill and find out what was in it, so that you could engage with your elected officials in Washington if you liked it or didn't like it, or maybe you wanted to see something changed. We owed it to the American people after Obamacare and Nancy Pelosi policies to post those bills online for you and for me to be able to understand what I'm going to vote on. That was violated for political expediency and was one of the biggest frustrations I had with House leadership. The pledge said that we would repeal Obamacare. Now, we voted way too many times to repeal Obamacare without results, instead of locking down on the must-pass pieces of legislation that give us influence to actually move policies such as that forward. The pledge didn't say, well, we hope we can repeal Obamacare. We would repeal Obamacare if Harry Reid will let us. Republicans pledged to the American people that we would repeal Obamacare. 5 years later, we still haven't. Now, I get the political realities of trying to do these things in a divided government. I really do. But we didn't write the pledge. I didn't write the pledge. I just embraced it. I embraced it as a promise, a pledge to America that this is what we do. You give us control. Now, 5 years later, Americans are frustrated because Republicans overpromised given the realities of government when Harry Reid can still keep bills from reaching the Senate, even though you gave us control of the Senate? Americans are frustrated when they see 1,000-page bills pass out of Congress without their elected representatives having had time to read them. Cromnibus, omnibus. Much less give a chance for average Joe out there in America to have a chance to read the bill and understand the policies that are buried deep within those 1,000 pages that affect what they do and what they want to do with their lives and creating businesses and how their personal liberties are being eroded. These big bills are wrong. Whether those are Nancy Pelosi's bills, John Boehner's bills, Mitch McConnell's bills, or Paul Ryan's bills, 1,000-page bills are wrong. And because I'm a true believer, I'm an original member of the House Freedom Caucus, and thank goodness the House Freedom Caucus is there. I'm an original member, and I'm now on the board and trying to influence where we take the House Freedom Caucus in the Paul Ryan speakership days and what we do in the remainder of 2016. Because, you know, I thought that we should post bills online for America to see. I actually thought we should cut real spending that was bankrupting America, because I believe that we should be cutting spending in such a way that fulfilled our constitutional role, our constitutional duty to have a strong military and strong national defense. We should live up to the agreements that we made to those veterans who served our great nation. We should live up to the agreement which protects the money which seniors actually had withheld from their checks. They paid into the system of Social Security. They paid into the system of Medicare, but yet we see that money being directed and their benefits cut. We should live up to those agreements while still finding cuts to shrink the size and scope of government, actually balance the budget, and end programs like Obamacare. But you know, I and those who are like-minded, House Freedom Caucus members and other conservatives in Washington, we've been called chuckleheads, knuckleheads, hardheads, chicken poop, and false prophet. But I think America has seen who oversold and underdelivered, and they're frustrated. You're frustrated. I'm frustrated. Heard that, I'm going to talk about this, but we're less secure today thanks to Barack Obama. Instead of tightening up our southern border, knowing full well that ISIS and our other enemies will try to exploit the soft underbelly of this nation, Barack Obama has rolled out the welcome mat. He's rolled out the welcome mat to illegal aliens that are coming into this country. He's rolled out the welcome mat to the drug cartels bringing God knows what into this country because interior enforcement isn't there. He's rolled out the welcome mat to refugees that have been unvetted. When ISIS, ISIL, whoever, Al-Qaeda, they have all said they want to infiltrate the refugee program to enter into this country. I take them at their word. It's time to secure the border. There are 6 words. If you're thinking about running for office or you're currently serving in office watching this on TV, there are 6 words Republicans ought to talk about every time we talk, every time we speak. Secure the border and enforce the laws. That's a winning message. Now, our nation still has deficit spending and we're in debt. We're in dire need of a balanced budget and a constitutional requirement to have a balanced budget each and every year. And we needed it yesterday. We need it tomorrow, we need it today, but we needed it yesterday. We need to shift how we spend your tax dollars away from the giveaway programs like Obama phones and crony capitalism enterprises like Solyndra, and even foreign aid, which somehow finds its way into the hands of the very bad guys who want to do harm to America. We need to evaluate all that, cut it back, and spend money where it's needed. That's reducing deficits. That's increasing our military. We need to put money in the national defense, border security, and interior enforcement of the duly passed laws that have already passed Congress. We don't need any more laws with regard to securing the border. We don't need any more laws regarding securing the border with a fence. The 2006 Secure Fence Act said Congress is going to build a fence on the border, especially in a critical 700-mile area. We've yet to do that. 2006 till now, it's almost 10 years. Appropriate the money and secure the border. I think you would rather have your tax dollars go to build a fence along the border, put more border personnel there, than have it go to increasing welfare programs, Obama phones, and crony capitalism enterprises. I know I want my tax dollars to do that. Secure our nation. The Constitution is clear. The number one role of the federal government is national defense of the states. You know, after being in Washington for 5 years, I'm not so sure that Washington and Congress in general can get this done, though. When I look at the campaign materials of other Republicans that I serve with in Congress, I look at their ads, I look at their flyers, I look at their websites, I look at their emails, I look at all that they do on the campaign trail, even listening to some of their speeches. And you know what? When I look at those ads and flyers and emails, they sound very much like what Jeff Duncan said in the 3rd District of South Carolina. Secure the border, end deficit spending, end the runaway debt, which is creating an unsecure future for our children and our grandchildren, increase our strong national defense, have a commander-in-chief that won't weaken our military, a president that won't issue unconstitutional executive orders. Their campaign materials say what mine do. But these congressmen and women who talk about these things, who are saying these things on the campaign trail, they can't ever seem to vote for the things that will actually get us there. They can't seem to vote for the things that will allow us to send a balanced budget amendment to the states. They can't seem to vote for the actual spending cuts to the entitlement programs that will reduce government spending. They can't seem to vote for the things that will keep us from having to raise the debt ceiling. Many of you know that for years I've tried to carry a Constitution in my pocket. The question is, why not? I'll cover that in just a second, but in my opinion, they're worried about getting reelected, maintaining a committee's assignment, cozying up to leadership, to move a piece of legislation that they like. There's a lot of different reasons that they can't. I talked with Eric Cantor one time. I'm going to be off script for just a second here, but I talked to Eric Cantor one time. And I was talking about the future of this country, and I said, Eric, you know, there's a lot of us that think this nation needs to turn hard right, that we need to return to limited government. We need to shrink government spending, end a bunch of unconstitutional programs in the federal government, return power to the states or the people. And we don't have much time. We need to do that. And he said, well, Jeff, he said, y'all want to turn hard right and hit the guardrail. He said, a lot of us want to just push the car off the road a little at a time, and we're going to hit the same guardrail, but it's going to be further down the road. I said, Eric, we don't have that much time. We don't have that much time. We're $19 trillion in debt. For a weak military, you've heard us talk about the threats of this great nation. So I try to carry a Constitution in my pocket most of the time. And if we truly believe in the Constitution, and I do, I truly believe what the men of 1787 did. I truly believe what our founding fathers, that they had wisdom. We have to believe in the whole Constitution. We can't sort of be like the Democrats and Barack Obama and go through the Constitution and pick what suits what we want to do, or pick the parts of the Constitution we like and throw the rest to the side. We have to believe in the whole Constitution. It's growing more and more apparent to me and more evident that the solution to American challenges won't come from Washington, but they'll come from you, the American people. Our founding fathers anticipated a time such as this. It's hard to believe that those wise men in 1787 anticipated a situation that we have today, but they did. They anticipated a time when Washington would be so entrenched that America's elected officials couldn't take the difficult votes to lessen the federal government's power, money, and influence. I mean, heck, with all the spending and borrowing and campaigning against spending and borrowing, you would think that Washington could at least pass a balanced budget amendment and send it to the states to be ratified. We can't even get that out, whether it's a standalone bill or part of cut, cap, and balance before we raise the debt ceiling. We talk about it. In fact, as I said, most Republicans talk about the need to balance the budget, the need for government to live within its means, the way you balance your own household budget, the way I balanced my budget when I was in business, and the way my wife and I have to balance today. We have to live within our means. Then I think we should see, if we send a balanced budget to America, if we send it to the states to be ratified, I think we'll see how you, Americans, feel about government spending and living within our means. Thankfully, the people have been given a constitutional solution. It's in Article 5, one that enables the states to reclaim their rightful power. At this time in our nation's history, I believe only meaningful legal recourse for the ongoing abuses of power in Washington is to use Article 5 by calling for a convention of states. Not a constitutional convention, mind you, because I love my Constitution and I don't want it monkeyed with. But a convention of states will work within the Constitution, and it will propose amendments that will rein in our runaway federal government. You, the people, and the states doing what Congress should do. That's why I'm proud to announce today that I lend my full support to a Convention of States project to tackle America's challenges. Because what I've seen from Washington is Congress isn't going to get it done. And if Congress can't get it done, we look to the Constitution of the United States, we look to what the Founding Fathers said, we look to Article 5, and we return the power to the people and to the states. But see, because in an Article 5 Constitution Convention of the States, the state legislatures will send a delegate with instructions to a convention of the states. And when they do that, that convention will actually draft amendments to make changes, maybe strengthen the wording of the Second Amendment, maybe take away some of the definitions, current definitions of the General Welfare Clause, maybe strengthen the Fourth Amendment, maybe strengthen the 10th Amendment, maybe strengthen or add amendments that support life and the unwillingness of Americans to kill babies through abortions. Maybe those will be in there. But it doesn't become law, it doesn't become part of the Constitution at that point, because at that point, that amendment is sent to the states to be ratified, and it takes 3/4 of the states to do that. It's an avenue and a recourse given to you by the Founding Fathers in the Constitution of the United States. And as I said earlier, if you truly believe in that document that I held up, the Constitution of the United States, then you have to truly believe in Article 5. You have to truly believe that it gives you, it empowers you and the states, and gives you the opportunity to return that power. It's time to begin the process of returning the power back to where our founders intended it. The people of the United States of America is where the power should lie. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. And I want to say God bless the United States of America, and may God continue to bless all of you. Thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. There you go.